Mac, do you want some carrot? Sit. Good boy. Yes, we have a new crew member on board, Macc the Border Terrier puppy. So this episode of The Water Road is all about having pets afloat. We'll be hearing about the lengths you sometimes have to go to get your cat to come back home.
There's all sorts of tricks that people suggest, like if you're a lady hanging your bra outside so your scent is actually in the air.
And we'll discover that it's possible to have more unusual animals on board as well.
He always turns head when you're walking him up and down the tow path as well. It's a good conversation starter.
Yeah, lots of people stop and wonder what we're doing walking a tortoise up the tow path.
Welcome to The Water Road. Well, Macc is named after the Macclesfield Canal because that's where we were when we found the litter, went to choose him and brought him home. He joined us at 8 weeks old. And I think it's fair to say that having a puppy on board has been harder work than we expected. When you're on a boat, you don't have a garden to let them out in. And when you're moving all the time, every new place is exciting. All the advice on toilet training, for example, says they should use the same place all the time. That's impossible when you're constantly cruising. Now, puppy training isn't really about teaching the dog what to do, it's about teaching the owners. And a friend recommended a trainer in Bollington on the Macclesfield Canal who gave us valuable advice on what to do. I'm with Cal Thorpe from Off Leash Dog Training, and you've been helping us with Macc because he's been a bit of a handful. In your experience, are we alone in finding that it's very hard work having a puppy?
No, puppies are horrible, quite frankly. Bitey little messes and not very nice.
What's the secret then? What do you have to do to make them a nice puppy?
Good breeder, first and foremost, for finding the right breeder for the right dog, for the right people, instead of, oh, that one's pretty, I'm going to have that one. So you want to look for a decent breeder who's got decent lines, who's not just after the money for the puppy. Then it's making sure that you've got really good sleep patterns so that your dog learns what to do, when to do it, and loads of redirecting onto things you want them to bite instead of your legs.
So obviously we're living on a boat. You've come to the boat to do a couple of sessions with Macc.
Uh-huh.
Do you think it's easier or harder being on a boat?
Much harder. You've got restricted space, so therefore you've not got places where you can put him for sleep out of the way. So he's always got distractions of things moving around. You've got no garden. So toilet training's an absolute nightmare for you when you first start. Your risk of everything is highlighted. So over-friendliness with other dogs when they're going past. So you're doing too much socialisation and literally making things just more, which can make matters worse later on. So especially with our terrier breeds, what are really quite
Choose your words carefully.
Well, terrorists. So they want to be biting a lot of things and chewing a lot of things because that's what their design is and that's what their makeup is. So for me, when you're living at the side of the boat or living on the boat, you're much more exposed to lots of different things than people are in houses, because you're going to have wildlife right on your doorstep no matter what. Plus, sometimes impolite people and impolite dogs.
So we've got to make sure he's properly trained, is what you're saying, really, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that with every dog, it's just your circumstances are going to be a little bit tougher because you're literally contained in a barrel, literally. And it's a very pretty one, but you've got less space for doing things that you would normally be able to do in a 2 up, 2 down. The exact same goes for people who've got too much room. So when I go to people's houses that have got like 10 bedrooms and things like that, they've got too much space, so the dog does too much naughty business. So like the toileting on the other side of the mansion, darling. So in some ways a smaller for toilet training's easier, but for a bigger area it can be even harder. But for you guys, I think the quietness of your boat is the hardest bit, because as soon as you walk to your kitchen, they're disturbed. But he's going to have a really good sleep pattern, because you're putting it in.
And hopefully he's going to really enjoy that life, isn't he, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, I'm coming with you. He is going to have a really good life on the boat. You're just going to work on it always.
While dogs are certainly the most popular pet among boaters, there are also quite a few cats. Some of them are indoor cats, but others are allowed out, which opens up new challenges. I spoke to Pip from Narrowboat Oleanna about Tilley, who's been a boat cat for 10 years. So Pip, obviously we've now got a dog, and dogs are trainable, whereas cats are notoriously independent-minded, aren't they? So how does that work on a boat?
When Tilley came to live with us when she was 4 months old, we sort of had some ground rules straight away. My old cat had moved on board with us when we first moved to live on board the boat, and Houdini'd been she was an old cat, so we didn't have a cat flap or anything like that, and we decided to keep the same sort of rules for Tilley. So once her evening meal's down, she can't go out, etc. So she comes back for her food and then doesn't expect to go back out again. She actually thinks that she should sleep with us rather than be alive at night and running around the world. She comes home for dreamies. Thank you for coming home, dreamies, which is the best bit about whenever she comes in the boat. She gets dreamies as a reward. We ring a bell whenever we feed her, a little like reception bell, and we call food time ding ding time because it's ding ding. And that was something that somebody suggested online at one point, that would mean that if your cat's outside, you could ring the bell and they'd come running home for some food. Tilley just lifts her head and goes, "All right, okay." But if she's busy outside, she's busy. Some days I can go outside and call for her and she'll come straight away. Other times, if she's busy with finding friends, etc., you have to be very patient and keep going back outside to call for her. There's all sorts of tricks that people suggest, like if you're a lady, hanging your bra outside so your scent is actually in the air, and their litter tray, which is always a problem if you just cleaned the litter tray.
So it sounds as though you're saying that cats can be kind of trained in a sort of way.
In a sort of way, not like a dog, which is like sit, lie down, etc. I suspect we're as trained as much as she is. As in, we give her the dreamies whenever she comes home. We started it, so it's our fault. And we have to open and close doors because we have no cat flap.
So are there other considerations then that you have to bear in mind, like if you moor up somewhere?
Yeah, we choose where we moor. You can't always choose a really good place to moor for a cat, so we wouldn't moor next to a busy road unless there's no choice. Near a fast-running river, maybe not. Ice, no. She wouldn't be allowed out because she'd want to walk on the ice. If there's duckweed across the canal, Tilley's first ever swim was at Selby Basin. When she went out, she normally looks to which side the towpath is, and yes, Tilley, we're talking about you. And she looked at the grass and thought it was great and went for a swim and swam the full length of our 60-foot boat. We do a quick cat health and safety.
And she has a whole series of ratings for different moorings, doesn't she?
She does. She has the Tilley stamp of approval. And she also has names for places like Birmingham isn't Birmingham. Birmingham is Bumingham because it's pants. It's not very good for cats. She goes out in Birmingham, in the middle of Birmingham near the Sea Life Centre, but it's bricks and a few shrubs. So that gets a bum mark. But if it's somewhere really good where there's good hunting, good trees to climb, she loves climbing trees, then it gets a Tilley stamp of approval. That goes on our blog. And
you mentioned the hunting for friends, as you call them. Have any of those made it onto the boat?
Yes, we have had a few. Every now and again we get mice. We tend to be a boat that has doors closed most of the time, so she can't bring them in. We did once have a baby rabbit brought in on our previous boat to Oleanna, and she brought it in through the front door. I didn't know what it was in her mouth to start off with, and I slammed the door in front of her, the bathroom door, which of course has a little air vent at the bottom, and the rabbit managed to get under the door, but she couldn't. So we did manage to rescue this baby rabbit and kept her inside whilst the baby rabbit bobbed back to its warren or whatever, and then she sat by the bunny hole for the rest of the day, waiting for another one.
And it's not just cats and dogs. We've seen boats with parrots and other birds on board, and there was a boat at the Crick Boat Show a year or two ago which had a built-in rabbit cage in its saloon. And Gemma and Jack have a Border Terrier called Goblin, who's a year older than Macc, and a 7-year-old tortoise called Teacake. They live on a wide beam boat in Skipton in North Yorkshire and have a mooring with a garden that they use in the winter. I started by asking them what we could expect over the next year with a Border Terrier.
It's a wild ride. We have our ups and downs with him, don't we?
Yeah, he's got a sixth sense for chaos. I was just saying the other day to Gemma, you can't really have a terrier without becoming a little bit terrier. You just got to kind of roll with the chaos a little bit and, make what you will of it.
He's literally the best thing that we've ever done, though. Like, he's just completed our little family on this boat, hasn't he? And he's settled in so well.
Do you think having the garden helps with having the pets?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because we've only done one summer with Goblin, we realised when we came back here how easy it is just to kind of let him out in the garden for a run around. Whereas on the towpath, I would imagine it's very similar to living in a flat, isn't it? You've got to kind of go out with them, and it's a walk every time they need to go out, especially puppy times. That was every time, like as we were training him, we had to put his harness and his lead on every time we let him out to use the loo.
And how do the two of them get on together? Because it's a bit of an odd mix, isn't it? A Border Terrier and a tortoise.
Yeah, they didn't really have a choice, did they? Teacake was hibernating when we got Goblin as a pup. So Goblin did he have about a month?
Yeah, just to settle in and
without him, and then we woke Teacake up, and I think he was just like, what? What is this? And last winter they got on so well, didn't they?
Yeah, we had broken heating last winter, so they were kind of just buddied up by the fire, and I think it was a kind of a relationship built on stress, really. If they were going to be warm, they had to put up with each other. That soon changed once it was fixed, though. Teacake has absolutely re-established the hierarchy.
So people might imagine that a tortoise is easier to manage than a dog. But has Teacake had his moments?
He had one last year, didn't he?
Yeah, we've had plenty of moments with that little little shell boy. He last year we lost him for
10 days.
10 days, yeah. We were on our mooring. Bit of a strange story, really.
Yeah, you were doing some gardening, and Yorkshire being Yorkshire, some pigs got out of the farm up at the top, and Gemma's natural Yorkshire instincts kicked in, and she went to herd them back into the field and thought, Teacake won't go very far, he's only slow. And then came down and he was gone.
And normally, like, we'll stick a pom-pom or something on his shell, or like a little flag or something, so we can see him in the grass. And I hadn't done that day. And then when I came back about 20 minutes later, I was like, oh no. But he's gone missing before, and we've kind of just thought, oh, he'll turn up, we'll find him.
He's usually in the same bushes every time.
Yeah, no, and then I had to go to work. And then we knew when it got to kind of overnight that we might not be finding him here. We had all kinds of people come and search for him, and then
we had 4 Labradors come and try and sniff him.
Oh yeah, we had some trained Labradors of our friends who are sniff and search dogs. They came and tried to look for him, but ended up just jumping in the canal. So that wasn't very that wasn't very productive. But then we came back from a walk, and we were just walking over the canal bridge, and just out of the corner of my eye, I just saw him just swanning through the field.
With a little skein of geese behind him.
Yeah, in with all the Canadian geese.
He's got a little, the tiles that you put on your keys so you can find your keys.
Like a little tracker.
So we just blue tack that to him when he's outside so we can ring him if he goes missing.
The other problem with him as well is that we've raised him to, I don't know how we've managed this, but he'll only eat pak choy, and he'll only eat hand-fed pak choy. He won't eat it off his own accord.
You imagine them being so plain and quite boring, really, but they're so emotive, a tortoise is. They just, he's really got a sass about him, and he's if he wants to be demanding, he'll make himself known.
Don't get a tortoise if you think it's an easy animal. It's not. Especially on a boat. When we bought the boat, we didn't really understand battery banks so much. We'd lived on a van, we knew about 240 and 12 volt and etc., but we didn't really understand the full in and outs of conserving electric and what uses what. So when we moved him onto the boat, he's obviously got a really high energy lamp that needs to be on for like 12, 13 hours a day. So we just rinsed our first battery bank just by using a tortoise lamp. It probably cost us about £600 in leisure batteries until we got educated in solar panels. So it's much better now.
So finally, have you got any advice for us to get through the first year with a border puppy?
Lots of puzzles. Like, you can't get out every day. Obviously, we walk him and whatnot, but so I'd say just about every day we set him a little blanket puzzle, and we do a lot of sniff training around the boat and hiding things, and just keep him entertained. Yeah,
it's all breed specific, isn't it? And because the sniffing and ratting dogs, we do a lot of stuff to kind of keep him enriched and keep his brain active. I think just ride the wave. I've had a terrible week with him this week. He's been a nightmare, running off after everything and anything. But then we've just come back from the beach with him this afternoon, and he's been beautiful. He's been such a good boy on the beach. So he's restored my faith.
Terriers being terriers, they just love novelty as well, though. And when you're moving on every couple of weeks, and you go from village to village, and he's got somewhere new to explore, he just comes into his own. He's just the happiest creature you'll ever meet.
You can follow Gemma, Jack, Teacake and Goblin on Instagram at Our Floating House. Pip, Mick and Tilley the cat have a blog, oleanna.co.uk. Cal Thorpe is offleashdogtraining.co.uk, or find her at Woofington's in Bollington. And Macc is on Instagram at Macc the Border. And that's all for this episode of The Water Road. Next time we'll still be on the Macclesfield Canal, exploring the Middlewood Way, a walking and cycle path that runs alongside part of the canal using the bed of a former railway.
I'm really pleased with how the community are involved, how they get together, how many people know each other, walk with each other, meet each other, go out for drinks together, and it's all because they meet on the Middlewood Way.
The Water Road is produced and presented by me, Adam Porter. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you're alerted when new episodes are published. And all previous episodes are always available to listen to wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you for listening to The Water Road.